CDL Major 4 has concluded, and this was genuinely one of the best events I think we've had this season. From the matches to the storylines, the script writers absolutely cooked. So let's talk about everything. I mean, we're going to talk about everything, right? From the big things that happened to the drama to the fights on stage. Let's talk about it all and some extra things at the end, as well as the champs bracket. But here's the bracket for the major, right? FaZe and LAT face off in the finals. LAT finally gets their revenge from Major 1. We thought this would be a grand finals matchup. We were going to see a ton this season. We only ended up seeing it at Major 1 and Major 4, but LAT doing their thing. Some other notable things. Surge going out top 12 is definitely pretty surprising. Not expected for, I think, them to go from back-to-back grand finals to top 12. Not ideal there, but LAT, man, these guys ran the gauntlet when it came to winning this event. A lot of people, especially after Major 3, said they didn't run into FaZe, right? So, like, was it really a good win? Like, they beat up on bad teams or teams they beat all the time. But at this event, they beat Surge, who, like I said, did go at top 12, but has been a competent team. They beat Toronto Ultra, who's had their number. They beat OpTic, who has been, looks like a top 4 team and got fourth this event and has been playing pretty well with Mercules. They beat Miami, who had beaten them earlier in the event, and then they get their revenge on Atlanta FaZe. Honestly, just a typical, I mean, as you can see from my tweet on screen, a typical run out of LAT and well-deserved to go back-to-back here at our majors. Scrap comes away with the MVP award for the event. I really think this could have went to like Scrap or Hydra, and honestly, even Dan Ghosty. His stats probably weren't anything too crazy, but for the first couple days, like the first 3 series or so LAT played, Ghosty was the best player. So major shout out to him. I think he played really, really well and definitely silenced some people who said he's been getting carried, he's not good enough, he's the weak link. And Dylan Envoy also just continues to be great on LAN in every single mode, especially Icy and SND. He had like a 1.6, which I think was the second highest KD behind Lunars, but Lunars only played like 2, maybe 3 SND maps, and Envoy played, I think, 8 or like 9. So pretty insane event out of all 4 of the guys on LAT, but Scrap gets another MVP award. We'll see who wins the season MVP between him and Celium. And then I just had to show this clip here from Hydra. This was the loudest I think the venue was the entire weekend. This might be this is definitely play of the major. This could be one of the best plays of the season. Wiping Atlanta FaZe like that, with that much flair, that much finesse he had in this clip was absolutely insane, especially given it was the grand finals, round 1 of a map where LAT had a chance to close it out and did eventually close it out to win the event. This was just insane. Being there in person, the crowd, it was so loud. It might be the loudest venue I've ever been in, other than maybe Champs last year when OpTic won. This was just amazing, and I'm so glad I got to experience that in person because Paco is disgusting. But then talking about OpTic, right, they go out 4th. This was another one of the stories at this event that I think definitely helped in terms of viewership and everything else, which we're going to touch on. But they go out top 4. They lose to FaZe. They lose to Thieves, so the 2 top teams in the game. And honestly had chances to beat both or at least take multiple maps off of both. They definitely had a couple where maybe they trolled where they shouldn't have. But this OpTic team, bringing in Mercules, getting a top 4, definitely looks like they have promise as long as they continue to work with each other over this 3.5 week break before champs. I think they're a team that can honestly like low-key contend or at least maybe cause some crazy upsets at champs. But speaking of champs, this is the bracket. If you haven't seen it, this is the official bracket for champs, which is going to be at the end of June or like the 3rd week of June. And looking at the matchups, LAT versus Boston Breach, Surge versus Heretics, FaZe versus OpTic, El Clasico, and Ultra versus Ravens. Honestly, some pretty good matchups, especially those middle 2, I think are the big ones. This is going to be a fire event. There's a chance we see some great round 2 matchups as well. We'll see if we get any upsets. For me, honestly, looking at the teams that qualified, I only think Ravens and Breach are the 2 that just don't have a chance really in terms of, I mean, maybe they find a way to get a top 6, but I think the other 6 teams outside of those 2 have a real chance of winning this event and at least making a pretty deep run. But at the end of the day, FaZe versus Thieves feels like it's going to be inevitably, or at least our winners finals, if not potentially our grand finals once again, which would probably be the best storyline for this season, given they've split the events so far this season. And a real quick shout out to the sponsor of this video, 1v1me. If you haven't already, click the link in the description to watch and stake esports all day. The newest season for Black Ops 6 is going to be starting here soon. So use code ATC at sign up for a $10 stake and let me know what you think about the app. But remember to always gamble responsibly. But now to talk about some of the drama, right? And let's start off with Super versus Scrap, Thieves versus Heretics. This was honestly just insane, right? If you didn't see Super, Scrap flipping each other off. Super gives Scrap a hard ass fist bump. Scrap hits himself in the face because Super hit him so hard in the hand. He grabs Super by the collar. We've all seen probably the clip and everything. Here's the screenshot of the clip, right, of Scrap grabbing Super by the collar. right after Miami takes down LAT. LAT gets their lick back on Sunday when it matters most, shooting bodies like crazy, standing up, talking shit, going over there. I mean, you'll see. I mean, literally, Scrap, Hydra, and Envoy are like 1v3ing Super on stage. Ghosty's just standing there like, oh man, I'm just trying to give it some fist bumps. This type of stuff is just great, right? This type of drama, this type of rivalry between players and teams is just great for the scene and adds so much to what makes the viewership so good, as you're going to see here in a second when we talk about the viewership numbers. And then we also can't forget Scrap accidentally calling in the Gunship in a pivotal map 4, which could have closed out the winners round 2 for LAT. Ended up losing this map, losing game 5, when the whole thing transpired after that with Super, you know, hitting Scrap's hand really hard and things like that. But just insane things that happen, things that you almost never see, right? Like, when's the last time we saw something like this that ends up losing a team a game in this fashion? Would they have ended up winning the map? Who really knows, right? You would think maybe they get at least 1 or 2 kills with the cruise missile. They get the back spawns, they break the hill, something like that. But there's no guarantees. But watching this in person, it just felt like the universe was all against Thieves. And I was down bad in the crowd. I was down bad. And then on top of the players and the drama we saw in the matches and on stage, we also had drama from fans. Actually, the first tweet I guess I should show you here is this one here. If you know who Caesar Season is if you've been on my channel, right? Preston, one of my co-hosts on Around the CDL. We were sitting in the front row in the middle of map 1 for FaZe versus OpTic, right? When it was like 200 to 200 rewind HP. All of a sudden, security and people who are running the event come out of nowhere, start putting chairs down in front of us. We were like, what is going on? And then all the FaZe, like, you know, Kason and Temper and Apex and a bunch of FaZe creators, including FaZe Unk, which was pretty interesting and something I thought a lot of people would seem pretty angry about that I saw on Reddit and Twitter, sit down in front of us in the middle of this match. And some people in the crowd, not just Preston, right? There were other people next to us. I think, you know, Preston just has the biggest following and voice in the community, hence why his tweet popped off so much. We're pretty upset about this, right? They were pretty angry about this happening, especially when it happened in the way it happened, which prompted some crazy stuff happening in the scene, people arguing with each other. And the biggest thing I think was this response from Puckett, right? Basically saying, you know, the fans are worth so much less than these creators and these people who earned their pass in the scene, and that you shouldn't be bitching. And he doubles down on it, basically, you know, saying it's not a random group, it's better for production. What are you not understanding? Some people, this is where people start pointing out, well, FaZe Unk was there. Why is he there? He's not a founder or anything like that for COD. But the comments just show you what people are thinking. You got creators like Lunchtime, you got OpTic Intel, you got Benjamin Bance, you got all different creators, fans, everybody in the scene down here basically saying, Puckett, this is a big ass L. What are you talking about? And this, I think, is what hurt so many people's feelings on the timeline outside of just having the front row stolen, so to speak, at the event. And I also wanted to make sure to throw in there, I forgot to say this when recording, nobody was actually mad at like Kason or any of the FaZe guys, right? If they get offered to sit in the front row, obviously you take it. I think people are more upset that DreamHack or the people putting on the CDL event didn't like at least ask beforehand or tell people this was a possibility. So nobody is mad, or at least nobody that is rational is angry at any of the FaZe guys. So I just wanted to make sure that was noted, because people thought they were mad at FaZe, which was definitely not true. But all of those things combined into making insane viewership, right? I mean, you could see here the peak was up from Major 2. The average was a season high. This blue viewership from Major 4 last year out of the water was just an amazing event. And all these storylines, everything from people almost fighting on stage to the front crowd or the front row VIP cheese and whatever you want to call it. This was one of the best events we've had in a very long time. And as someone who was there in the venue, that place was packed on Sunday. I mean, there was standing room only, basically. People that came from Halo or Counter-Strike or other esports were in there watching to see the grand finals, to see some of the big matches like OpTic versus Thieves on Sunday. There had to be, I don't even know how many people there were in that venue. It was absolutely insane. And I also saw DreamHack Dallas broke records for the most attended DreamHack event. I think it was over 60,000 people total attended DreamHack. How many of those went to COD, I don't really know, but we need more events like DreamHack. We need COD, we need Halo, we need Counter-Strike, all these things to be in the same venue and have events together, because that's how you cross-pollinate and you grow esports as a whole. And some other little tidbits here before we end. First time in 6 years, FaZe are not the #1 seed going into champs. LAT finally dethroned them, but that's just an insane record for FaZe to have. Dylan Attach announces his retirement. This one's definitely pretty sad, because Attach is one of my all-time favorites. He's one of the last of like the pre-CWL OGs, like him and Slasher. I mean, I even had this controller here, this Denial Scuff. I won this from Attach in a giveaway back in like 2015. So I've been supporting Attach for his entire career, and it's sad to see him go, but he's definitely going to do content. Maybe he'll end up on the flank. We'll have to see, but I just wish him all the best, right? Because Attach is one of the OGs, and he's the youngest ever world champion, right? Just after turning 18, winning COD champs. Something we're never going to see broken, most likely, in the CDL. And then lastly, All-Star or Team of the Year voting is now open. I'll try to remember to put a link in the description so you can go vote if you haven't already. Make sure to vote for who you think actually deserves it. I know people want to just vote for their favorite players, but definitely vote for who you think deserves it. And let me know who your Team of the Year, right? You get to vote for 8 players, 4 SMGs, and 4 ARs, whoever you think was the best. I think for me, Scrap, Celium are definitely 2 of the ARs. I think Hydra, Simp are definitely 2 of the SMGs. And then I think like Neptune, Joe Deceives, even like Envoy, I think could be in there. I think Rencor, Super, Ghosty, Draza, even a Boozer or Nasty could be in there for ARs. There's a lot of players I think that are deserving, but some of the top ones I feel are pretty cut and dry. But let me know what you think about all this in the comments. And major shout out to everyone who I met at the event. I mean, there were dozens of people that came up to me that said they loved the content or just wanted to say what's up, took a picture, things like that. So it's just sick to go to these events and sort of just get to vibe out with the community as a fellow fan and just meet so many of you guys. So I appreciate the support you guys always show me. We're still on the road to 10K, so don't forget to sub if you haven't already. And hopefully I'll see you all in the next video.